What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This is episode number 501. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the line all the way from Denver, Colorado, it's Luis Scott-Vargas. Luis, you're in the Magic Hall of Fame.
That's true.
And you're considered one of the top 5 best players of all time.
I would say most people would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that our listeners knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Just flexing on them a little, just throwing that out there. We got one of the top 5ers on the show here.
Yeah,
so,
and
anyway.
And despite what I said on Twitter, 500 episodes is a good run, but I also am not done, so.
You're still here.
Plus, everyone knows if I were to announce my departure, dude, when that day comes.
Stop. Don't even say you're going to do it in a sign-off. You would not do that to me. You think it's so funny. It would hurt me. You would hurt my feelings deeply.
On the record, this is being recorded. People are listening. I will not do that to you.
Okay.
Probably.
You said it now. Now, if you, whatever, man, you can't cross your fingers on something like that. That's too important. All right. So the show, we're running. We crossed that 500 episode threshold last time, and we just not looking back. 501
we're actually
coming
walking.
to your ear holes. Yeah. Good point. We are actually walking into episode number 501 because we're going to be doing our M20 draft walkthrough. We did one last time on the show where Luis and I draft while we're actually it's on Arena. I need to share this with you, don't I? We did not think about this, Luis. Maybe I should Skype you.
Well, this is, behind the scenes, a look at the professionalism LR brings to the table. Yeah, let's go ahead and use Skype or Discord or something.
Okay, yeah, I'll Discord. That is really funny. I just realized you would not be able to see this. So what I'm doing is, and by the way, dear listener, thank you so much for your feedback that you gave us after we did that first one. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because I asked for your feedback and you gave it to us. And one of the things that I decided as a result of that feedback was I'm going to make at least an attempt at recording this visually, so like a draft video. Now, we are still going to be describing and going over the cards that we have in depth for people that are just listening. That's what this is focused on. But hey, if it's a free roll to record the video part and I can put this into the video version of the podcast that goes up on YouTube anyway, I'm going to do it. So this is our attempt at that. But I just realized that I'm using a separate computer to do it so it doesn't interfere with the audio settings on our main computer. And I need to make sure that Luis can actually see the screen. So anyway, I'll get logged into that in a second, or actually I'm logged into it. So Luis, if you can find me on there and say hi or something, maybe that is a thing you could do. In the meantime, got to mention our sponsor, channelfireball.com. That's right. The place to go for all things Magic related. Anything you need that's Magic the Gathering, you're going to find it on Channel Fireball. They have a huge selection of singles. You can get sealed product supplies all at CFB, and a really cool promotion coming up as well. Luis, you are going to be competing in a week's time or so, a little longer, in the Mythic Championship 4 from Barcelona, Spain. I'll be there doing coverage of the event as well from the booth. But this is super cool. If you so here's the deal. You put it in order Monday through Thursday, the week leading up. Okay, so right now it's July 18th.
So that's Monday the 22nd through the 25th.
That's right. There you go. If you put in an order on Channel Fireball and you use the code scoreboard, promo code scoreboard during that time, then tune in and watch if you are able to, and even if you're not, this will still apply. Luis playing in the event in Mythic Championship 4. However many pro points he gets, that's the percentage that you will get off on your order. This is super cool. The minimum is 5, by the way. So you're going to be getting 5% back just by using the code scoreboard. But if Luis runs it up, it goes all the way up to 30 if he wins the event.
Trust me, we would be thrilled if it ended up there. So this is 5% back in credit, which you'll get the week after. So let's say you spent $200 buying some cards, boxes, what have you, and then I do really well and I get 15 pro points, which is less than the average I've gotten, at the Pro Tours this year, by the way. I've been having a good year. You would get $30 in store credit back.
Also want to mention the sponsor, or excuse me, the other way that the show is supported, that is patreon.com/limited resources. Thank you so much for all of our patrons on there. I've got a bit of a giveaway here as well. What I do is we do the Crack-A-Packs on the show. Now, we're not going to do it this week because we're going to be doing it, basically a Crack-A-Draft. But I've got in my hands here the rares that we've opened up from the last few Crack-A-Packs, including some from the last few sets. So that's cool. And an extra pile of them that our friend Krishna gave us from the GP. And Luis, you'll get a kick out of this. 2 nights ago after my basketball game, one of my teammates, Mark, he came up, he said, "I've got a gift for you." And I'm like, "What's that?" And he gave me a demonic tutor. Oh, it's an old, maybe a revised one or something like that. And he said I could give it away on the show to a listener. So we're going to throw that in with the Crack-A-Pack rares. How cool is that?
That is awesome. Demonic tutor is one of my favorite cards, DT, and I think it is quite sweet.
Yeah, and the cool part is that Mark actually opened this in a pack when he was like a teenager. He remembered back. He told me, "I remember opening this," but he doesn't play anymore. He's got a busy life, so he said, "You know what? Why don't you give it to one of your listeners who can put it to good use?" So thanks, Mark, for that. Really cool. And this one is going to go to Benjamin Zaug, or we should say Benjamin Zaug. He's from Switzerland. So thank you so much, Benjamin, for your continued support of the show. And I'm going to find out how I can get these to you. I put them in a limited resources deck box with some limited resources sleeves and a sticker in there too. And all you got to do is be on the Patreon to be eligible for
Can you mute yourself on Discord, by the way?
Thank you. Sorry about that. So, Luis, we have sort of 2 things to bring on the show this week, right? You and I have actually been very much sorry, Luis, I just saw your message, by the way, and all the exclamation points. You and I have been focused on Modern Horizons, which this whole putting 2 sets out so close together has really been disconcerting. It's just hard to know what to focus on. You know?
I know what to focus on, especially I really want to support everyone who decides to use the scoreboard promotion. I'm just practicing for the Mythic Championship. That's where I've focused a lot of my time and energy. I've probably done 30 Modern Horizons drafts in the last week. Something like that. And I think you know that because the group chat that me, you, and Chian are in, I send deck picks every single time. So
yes, you do.
Unsolicited.
full resolution, as it were. Yes.
Actually, that's not true. You guys have asked. But
yeah, no, and it is great, by the way. This is the type of thing, as a quick aside, you and your friend should also do this, dear listener, right? Get into a chat with your friend that plays draft or a group of your friends that play drafts and share ideas, deck lists. Even if it's just you only can read it every once in a while or whatever, you can learn by absorbing and by seeing what other people are doing. Okay.
Yeah, I think that the fact that the 3 of us are sitting there talking about Modern Horizons, posting pictures of the decks we draft, and or hey, what would you take here, is just making us all better, or at least making the 2 of you better. So.
Yes, it is doing that, but it really does, because the key here is that it's not about what do I take, right? It's how do you approach the format, right? Because this is where the communication that we talk about on the show a lot, about being able to clearly communicate differing grades of things, right? Like a gradient rather than a black and white, is really important, because you might use a term that we like to say, which is close but clear. Yeah. Right? You might say, "Hey, Luis, would you take this card or this card here?" And you'd say, "I'd take this card, but it's close but clear." In other words, it's not a disaster if you take the other card, but you should definitely not. Right? And then there's other times where it's they're basically a tie on power level, and they're basically a tie on likelihood to make the deck. What do I think about the format? I think it's more important to be able to kill small creatures, so I'll take this card. Or I think it's better to have a more powerful late game, so I'll take the other card. And except for that's really valuable information to somebody who doesn't have a great feel for the format, who are still feeling it out. So yeah, that type of thing is excellent. But going back to our main point here, Luis, we've kind of been, and look, I'm about to be in the booth for, 2 drafts and 6 rounds of limited at the highest level of competition. I need to draft more too. So I've been playing a lot of Modern Horizons. Now I have snuck in some M20 in there as well, but I don't know. I don't feel like I have any like groundbreaking changes from last time. But we do have some sort of recaps and stuff that we wanted to go over as far as the archetypes go and how we have them ranked, and then a few cards or things to touch on. Do you want to do that before we do the draft or after? What do you think?
I think we should.
Should we set the stage?
We should talk about the notes, because interspersed with my Modern Horizons prep, I did play in the Fandom Draft Tournament Twitch Rivals Draft Tournament last week, and I almost always have Twitch streams on, and everyone's I tend to watch people who are drafting M20, so I've gotten a decent amount of draft. Plus, I don't know, Arena's fun to play, so I sneak in drafts here and there too, even though I know I should be focusing on other things. So I think I would rather set the stage and then do the draft. So let's talk about some of the kind of the notes, and then a ranking of all the 2-color archetypes.
Yeah, I like that.
So the rank, let's talk about the rankings first, actually, because the notes actually make sense a little bit there. So I think Elementals is by far the best deck. And part of the reason is it's both powerful, as in the synergies are very good, and flexible, because Elementals appear in 3 colors. It's all the teamer colors, blue, red, and green. So right now, I have blue-green as the best color pair, followed by red-green, followed by blue-red. And that might seem extreme, but I think that just the combination of there being a ton of good common payoffs and good uncommon payoffs and even higher rarity payoffs, and there being a lot of good cards that happen to be Elementals, like Cloudkin Seer and Leafkin Druid are just great cards you'd always play in those colors and are Elementals.
Yeah.
So you're not like, this isn't like, okay, I've got to play some really bad goblins to make my Siege Gang Commander or Goblin War Chief good. This is, I'm going to put in these good cards in my deck, and they work better with my other good cards.
Yeah, it is funny because
it's huge.
Yeah, you know how it is. It's like the further you get into a set, the more the tiny details seem bigger, right? Like the fact that Cloud Concealer is an elemental is now this like egregious thing to me, right? Where I'm like, how could they have made that an elemental? Like it's already so good. Like you tell that card to somebody who plays a lot of limited, and you put it in the context of a core set, and they would just be like, what? Like that card's insane. And then if I go, and it's like the most relevant creature type, it's like, huh? Like it just, they just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. But I agree. The interesting thing though is, the blue, green, red, green, and blue, red archetypes are kind of blended into one big ball anyway, right? Like not that they all have to be 3-color decks if you're playing elementals, but they so often are, where they're at least touching the 3rd color for something, that it's almost like saying this one archetype is the dominant archetype, enough to take up the top 3 slots, which is kind of a big deal.
Right. And again, the flexibility where you start with, let's say you start with the Mythic Uncommon, Risen Reef, right? I believe the best uncommon in the set. You can end up in any of these color pairs. You would rather be, I think, base green more than not. But even if you're not, I mean, I've splashed Risen Reef in blue-red. I've splashed Risen Reef in red-green, and it's just still been very good. Yeah. And when you start with a couple elemental cards and you see a 3rd color, you can either transition and end up, let's say you think you're going to be red-green, but you just end up blue-red and not playing any green cards. Totally fine. Or you end up red-green splashing a blue card or 2, or blue-red splashing a green card or 2. And there's good fixing. There's just a lot of ways to end up in the right place here. And I think that elementals are where I'd want to start. So those are the first 3 archetypes. Past that, I've got blue-black control. And part of this is, if you go by color rankings, I think blue is the best color. It just has nuts commons like Cloudkin Seer, and even Frostlinks is very good, also an elemental, by the way. It has good uncommons. I think blue is just where you want to be in general. And so something like blue-black control, pairing the good blue cards with like Murder or, Disfigure or any of those other good black removal spells. And then after blue-black is a green-black, like kind of a value graveyard deck. Though I think that this one is pretty close with blue-white flyers. I think they're both solid. And the green-black deck is kind of like Moldervine Reclamation represents what that deck wants to do.
Right.
Right.
That's kind of the engine. Yeah.
Yeah, it wants to play, your spiders. Spiders are really good in this deck. Crappy creatures, then play like silverbacks and any other big expensive cards you can kind of get your hands on alongside removal, and then using Gift of Paradise to maybe splash. Like, this is the kind of deck that splashes, you open out one of the 3-color cards like Yarok, or you just splash like, Boreal Elemental or Cloudkin Seer. And I think the green-black deck, partially because of the common spiders, ends up being pretty good.
Yeah, it has that game plan. And then the thing you'll note about both blue-black and green-black is it is heavily anchored in the fact that black is very strong as well, particularly because it gets access to murder, right? Like having a card that powerful at common is just such a boon that you can get it. And then also it gets past you occasionally in later packs because it is double black and not really splashable. That is just a combination that is great. The rest of the cards in black are, Soul Salvage can do some things. There's some decent stuff. When you get up to the uncommons, things get quite good. But murder really pulls a lot of weight in a set like this. And then, of course, I'm also quite partial to Audacious Thief as well.
Definitely. Yeah. And what this deck ends up doing a lot of the time, too, is using stuff with the Vulture plus Soul Salvage, right? And Gorging Vulture. And it just, especially in a long game, Soul Salvage is going to be one of your best cards.
Yeah. Also of note, in green-black, Bone Splinters really does tend to shine there as well. And that becomes quite a strong removal spell there, where you can play it in blue-black as well, but maybe you're giving up a little bit more.
Then there's blue-white flyers, which is kind of exactly what you'd expect. All the good blue and white flyers, plus any cards that can get blockers out of the way or bounce blockers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there is enough with Unsummon and Frostlinks, both at common, to just get things out of the way and slam. Yeah.
So one note here, this is the first white archetype, and we have it like 6th.
Yeah.
White is not a good color to be in M20.
No.
The white cards are just not good.
No, what basically happened here is blue dragged white up a notch.
Yes.
Like against its will, but that was just the best color pulling up the worst color.
So, and you'll see this likely during the draft. We're going to tend to avoid white. Like, look, if you open a good white card, you can open a good white card. That's fine. It's not unplayable, but we're not going to prioritize playing white in this deck or in this draft. There's also red. So the next after blue white flyers is red black sacrifice. This is looking to combine the fact that red and black naturally have just good removal, Chandra's Outrage, Shock, Murder, alongside active treason plus sacrifice outlets like Blood Soaked Altar, Blood for Bones, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
One note here is that Sanitarium Skeleton is a lot better than it looks. It gets milled by Gorging Vulture. You can sacrifice it to your various effects, and it's just a good card. Even though it doesn't look very imposing, I found it to be even kind of annoying. Like sometimes in a long game, it just negates one of their ground attackers.
It really can. I mean, if they have a Vorst Claw and the game's gone long, that guy holds that thing back indefinitely. It acts as a very clunky removal spell, till you can find your murder or whatever.
Yeah. And the last 3 archetypes are the white ones.
Yeah.
What does it say in the notes here?
It says crap, and crap.
White, black, crap, white, red, crap, white, green, crap. Basically, white, black actually can be okay. You can kind of have like the token sacrifice theme. White, red, and white, green are both pseudo-aggressive, but I just haven't gotten these to work. And look, one of the things that drives me crazy is when people say that like, oh, you guys don't like playing aggro, that's why you don't like these decks. Look, when I approach formats, I try to figure out what is the best, because ultimately I am tested on what is the best. I'm not tested on what I like the most.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think these decks are good. I don't win with them, and I tend to beat them when I play against them. So
yeah, I found the same thing.
Look, as a counterpoint, one of the 2 of my favorite 3 decks in Modern Horizons draft are red black aggro and blue black aggro. So it's not that I won't draft those things. It's just I don't think they're good in M20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, I think people tend to skew their opinion on how we draft based on like a draft video or a stream.
Yeah.
Which is perhaps has a healthy dose of entertainment or fun, built into it. Okay, well, let's get into it then. Let's do a draft here, and I'll be, again, the way this works, if it's your first time coming along with us, is we're going to be doing not just a crack a pack, not even the first 3 or 4 picks. We're going to do an entire draft, and I will post a picture of the final deck on the Patreon.
And like you mentioned before, you're recording this video. You can watch the draft video, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to record it, and then I'm going to try to put it in line with the rest of the audio on the normal video version of the show, which for an average show is just audio. But I'm going to see if I can make it work. I think I can.
It might have been easier to do that if I was able to access the soundboard.
Oh yeah, we'll look at that for next time, Louis. Sure.
So, you know how like you mark like cut with like a big the clapper or whatever. Maybe you should have the ape screeching noise so you can line it up there.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to make your life easier.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you for making my life easier on a technical front. All right. Ooh, I'm doing sealed. That's not what I want to do. All right.
Well, you just spent the gems on sealed, so that's cool.
All right. Well,
wow, Rich Marshall, 15,000 gems and 17,000 gold.
I just spewed off. This looks
at least you spewed it off with a horrible seal deck.
Yeah, that looked bad, although there was a Golos. Okay, let's try this again. I'll build that later.
No, you're not. Actually, you probably will.
I will. I'm not going to spew off that hard.
All right, can we draft? Is that what we're going to do?
We can. Traditional core set draft. All right.
There we go.
Now that I've spewed off all my gems. All right, pack one, pick one.
Well, not going to be a really hard pick one, pack one. We opened Vivian Arcbow Ranger. Almost more interesting what happens if Vivian's not in the pack. She's a windmill slam. She is better than any uncommon or common by miles.
Yeah, and I'll read it real quick.
She fights things. Sure.
Yeah.
I got it. It's
you got it. All right.
1 green, 4 mana. 4 loyalty, +1, distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among up to 2 target creatures, which means you can do 1/1 or 2 on the same creature. Those creatures gain trample until end of turn. -3, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. So not a fight, it just punches or bites something else.
Mm-hmm.
And then -5, you can choose a creature card you own from your sideboard and put it in your hand. So that ability doesn't really come up very often, but if somehow you end up on a stalled board, sometimes Vivian pulls a Vorse Claw or something out of the board. So the other contenders here are Mask of Immolation, Shock, Lavakin Brawler, some good red cards, Pacifism, and Brineborn Cutthroat. I think I would just lead things off with Mask here.
This is assuming Vivian's not in the pack.
If Vivian was not in the pack, yeah, because Mask is just a very good card. It's 1 in a red. It makes a 1/1 elemental that has the mask on it, and the mask says you can sack the equipped creature to deal 1 to any target with equip 2.
So you like that starting off better than a brawler, because the brawler really stands out to me.
Brawler is really good, but I like mask because it's good in the elemental deck because it makes an elemental and is just a cheap play. But it's also just good in like the black-red sacrifice deck. 5 mana, lets you active treason their creature, put the mask on, and sack it.
Yeah, that is fantastic.
So. But yeah, let's just take Vivian here.
Yeah, so we're going to take Vivian, but the one thing I want to talk about before we move on is, because look, we need to go like one step deeper on pack one, pick ones, because there's 2 things. One, how do we feel about taking triple green? We know that Vivian's really the most powerful card in the pack. Yeah, so it feels fine, right? We're like, it's worth it, no problem.
Also, there's a triple color card in every color at Mythic, right? The Cavaliers. Green is probably the least impactful on your mana base because green has Gift of Paradise and Leaf Kindred, so it has the least problems getting to triple.
Now, the other thing that we have to talk about before we move on is we just glossed over Pacifism. This is one of the best removal cards in the set. We are so off of white at this point that it didn't even make our second pick. We were going to take Mask of Immolation, and we were talking about that in Lavakin Brawler with a Shock in the pack. Yet Pacifism's better than all those cards at face value. We have to like touch on that, right? The fact that we're like so down on white that we're not even looking at a Pacifism realistically here.
Yeah, I just don't think I want to start with Pacifism over a good red common. But I agree, Pacifism power level wise is comparable to the other options.
So sometimes that's the thing that happens, but we're going to take Vivian. So we take Vivian. Oh, nice. And we get past a very good uncommon Chandra Novice Pyromancer, 3 in a red, 5 loyalty Chandra, +1 elementals you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. -1 adds double red, -2 does 2 damage to anything. Let's see. Our other uncommons are Might of the Masses and Woodland Champion. And then what about the commons? Let's see. Ooh, there's a Boreal Elemental in the pack. And, well, there's a Ferocious Pup if we're desperate to stay in green. But I like Chandra Novice Pyromancer here by a fair bit.
Yeah, Chandra's really powerful. One of the best uncommons in the set. Maybe not a Risen Reef, but still very, very good. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy taking Chandra after Vivian. I like red, green, and Chandra's really good. Plus, we're not locked into either of these colors yet, so I think it's fine to take it.
Yeah, my second choice would be Boreal Elemental, though. That card's impressed. It's an elemental, and it's just really good. But we're going to take Chandra, Novice Pyromancer. So again, we've got Vivian. Actually, we have 2 Planeswalkers. Nice place to be for core set here. And our third pick is coming. All right, it is. Let's see. Our uncommons are Apostle of Purifying Light. That's the 1 and a white for the Pro Black 2/1. Chandra Spitfire. This is the 2 and a red 1/3 flying elemental. And whenever an opponent is dealt non-combat damage, it gets +3/+0 until end of turn. There's also a Flame Sweep in the pack. 2 and a red instant. Uncommon, does 2 damage to each creature except creatures you control with flying. And then what else do we have here? Scorch Spitter. That's an elemental, but I don't really like it. There's Netcaster Spider. I like that.
Netcaster's decent. And I'm a little more tied to green than red because Vivian is just a stronger card. But I would still just take Chandra Spitfire here. I think it's a good card. It works nicely with Chandra. It actually works nicely with Vivian, flying creatures to put counters on.
For sure. Yeah. So the real take here then is Chandra's Spitfire better enough than Netcaster Spider, right, to warrant us taking a red card over a green? Because we do want to lean green if possible to get Vivian in the deck, but we also want to, follow the signals. Here, they're comparable, right? They're pretty close. I think Spitfire's a little bit better of a card, certainly has a better ability. So yeah, let's go for the Spitfire.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, so we take the Spitfire. Next pack coming up, uncommon still in the pack. Portal of Sanctuary, that's the one that blinks your creatures. It's pretty bad. There's Diamond Knight, which is really not impressed me.
I actually do want to explore more Portal of Sanctuary decks, but so far I have not found it to be great. Agent of Treachery is the real heavy hitter, the 7-mana steal a permanent card. But
oh, yeah, sure. But that card also just tends to win the game if you resolve it anyway. Yeah. Diamond Knight is another uncommon we have, or our other uncommon. 3 mana, 1/1 Vigilance. You choose a color when it ETBs. Whenever you cast a spell, the chosen color gets a counter. That card has just been too slow for my liking. Maybe it's playable, but I have not been excited by it. Let's see if there's anything else in this pack that we might consider, though. Sure, there's a Gift of Paradise.
I like the Paradise a lot with what we have so far. It's not like this is an impressive pack. We're not passing up like a Pacifism or Murder or anything, but yeah, I would take the Gift of Paradise here.
All right, let's do that. So we've got 2 green cards, 2 red cards.
Can you hold on? I have to go get the door. I'll be back in just a second.
Sure. Well, I'll just hang out with you, dear listener, while Luis goes. So just to recap, we've got Vivian Arcbow Ranger, Chandra Novice Pyromancer, Chandra Spitfire, and Gift of Paradise. So from a curve perspective, we have 2 3-drops and 2 4-drops. And then from a color perspective, we have 2 green cards and 2 red cards. So we're kind of just right in the middle. Nothing really has pulled us in any strong direction away from this color pair. And given that we want to be in this color pair anyway, that seems fine. I'll start going over the next pack with you as well. And I'll update Luis, or he can look when he gets here. Our next pack has Angel of Vitality, which is the 2 and a white 2/2 flying angel. For uncommon, if you would gain life, you gain that much +1 life instead, and it gets +2/+2 as long as you have 25 or more life, but it's in white. Not really where we want to be. There is an Uncaged Fury, 2 and a red instant and uncommon. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains double strike until end of turn. And then in green, there's Vorst Claw, the 7/7 for 6. Plummet, good sideboard card, and then Feral Invocation, which I don't think Luis and I like at all. But the best card in the pack for us seems to be Shock. Red instant, does 2 damage to any target. I think that's the card that we're going to end up taking here, and I assume that that's the one that Luis will pick as well, though I guess you and I, dear listener, get to sweat it out here when he comes back and see what he says. But it feels like Shock is a pretty obvious pick here. I think you could make some type of weird argument for Plummet, just if you really feel like the deck could be weak to flyers. But the truth of the matter is that green decks aren't. They're generally actually quite good against flyers because you get Netcaster Spider and you get Mammoth Spider. So both of those shore that up, and then Shock just lets you stay alive, and particularly good with Planeswalkers as well. Just because a lot of times there's an awkwardness point, especially both of our Planeswalkers cost 4 mana, where you're like, you want to play it on turn 4, but your opponent maybe had gotten off to a decent start. And a card like Shock lets you really stifle their beginning, their early curve, their 2 or maybe even their 3 drop for just 1 mana, and then untap and slam your Planeswalker. It can be really difficult for your opponent to recover from cheap removal into 4 mana Planeswalker. So we'll see how. I'm assuming that Luis is going to say he wants to play Shock.
All right, sorry about that.
No worries, he's back. All right, so I already broke down the pack for our dear listeners, but now we want to get your take on it.
All right, well,
we've made our mind up.
Yeah, I'm going to take Shock.
All right, that was what we came up with as well.
I mean, the best.
It's not really close.
No, it's not close. The other good card here is Angel of Vitality, which is a good card. But seeing a Shock 5th is also a good sign. So I only really feel tempted to switch colors when you use something like, let's say there's a Pacifism in this pack and then no good red or green card, but there's a Chandra's Embercat, and that card's great.
Yeah, so the next pack has Chandra's Embercat. There's another Gift of Paradise. There's also a Bloodfell Caves for a potential splash, and a Brineborn Cutthroat, which we saw earlier, as well as 2 other blue commons with Metropolis Sprite and Sage's Rodenizen. But as you mentioned, Embercat, perfect for this deck. Absolutely perfect. Lets us turn 3 Chandra.
It's not just elementals.
Yeah, it's insane. All right, so we'll take Chandra's Embercat here. All right, next pack has, in our colors, it has Healer of the Glade, which is an elemental. That's the green 1/2. You gain 3 life when it ETBs, but I don't really like that card.
The only time I've ever thought that card is worth playing is if you have 2 Risen Reefs. Then just like fair game to play in any elemental. But
anything that says elemental, yeah. There's a Dragon Mage in this packet uncommon. That's the 5 red 5/5 flying. I don't either. When it deals combat damage to a player, again 5/5 flying for 7 mana. Each player discards their hand and draws 7. I don't like that at all. There is a Keldon Raider here and a Goblin Bird Grabber, both mediocre.
So I actually like taking the Ferocious Pup here because I don't want more double red cards, especially with Vivian in my deck. And the pup is good with anything that helps you go wide. Plus, red-green sometimes does that with Scampering Scorcher. So you're already looking for go wide incentives. Keldon Raider is a fine pick here. I wouldn't say it's a bad idea to take Keldon Raider here. I would tend to take the Ferocious Pup, but I think I think so too.
I like the idea of Ferocious Pup into either of the Planeswalkers as well, just because it's so difficult, for them to actually get at the Planeswalker. So we'll take the Pup. Let's see. This is our 8th pick. So our next pack is the Wheel. And in our colors, there's a Diamond Knight. Again, there's also a Ripscale Predator. That's the 4 red 6/5 Menace Dinosaur. And then there's another Healer of the Glade and another Feral Invocation. Now, in blue, there's a Befuddle, a Metropolis Sprite, and a Moat Piranhas. That's the
bunch of mediocre blue cards, but also some mediocre red and green cards. So it's not like those colors are getting cut. I don't like Ripscale Predator very much. I find that Force Claw and the Silverback tend to make it unnecessary, and both those are better, in my opinion. I don't like Diamond Knight.
I think
I would probably just...
Diamond Knight's super medium.
I'd probably just Feral Invocation here. I don't know. It's...
just none of these
all these cards are bad. Really. I'm fine with taking any of them.
All right, I'll just take Healer of the Glade. I'm going to put it right in the sideboard, though.
Oh, I don't mind this pick. There is a Brightwood Ranger, the 4 mana 2/4 or tracker rather, that you can pay 6 and tap it to look at the top 4 cards of your deck and put a creature into your hand from them. So that I like having exactly one of these in a lot of my green decks because it just gives you something to do if the board stalls out.
The other cards left are Befuddle, Brineborn Cutthroat, and then there is a Heart Piercer Bow.
And a Loyal Pegasus. So white is, that having Loyal Pegasus Wheel is, that is the perfect card for the blue-white deck, but I would just take the Brightwood Tracker here.
Yeah, I'm going to take that for sure. All right, another Ferocious Pup. There is a Fire Elemental.
Yeah.
I'll just take another
I would take the Pup. I only start taking Fire Elementals once I have, multiple Chandra's Embercats, because then you want Fire Elemental to be your top end.
This is getting a little awkward here. So we've got in pick 11, we've got a Dagger Sail Aeronaut, a Scorch Spitter, and a Greenwood Sentinel. I hate the Sentinel.
Yeah,
I don't like the Spitter. I like the Aeronaut, but we're getting a little stacked at 4. We've already got 3 of them.
Yeah, I would just take the Aeronaut and then kind of figure out later which of the cards you want to play at that level.
Yeah,
this pack has Diamond Knight, Epic Hero Blood, and Prismite, plus a Demolish or whatever, Tectonic Rift. I would just take the Diamond Knight. I'm not sold on any of these things.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I would just take Prismite because we don't have 2s. I mean, we're not playing these anyway. But
so of note here, we have gotten past some decent late red. And now here's an Uncaged Fury, which is a playable card, especially with if you pick up some Lavacan Brawlers. Haven't really got past any green cards. Like we opened Vivian, last pick Dragon Knight. Funny.
Yeah, I guess the bots don't like it either.
We opened Vivian, took an early Gift of Paradise, and then got a couple pups. So that's not a strong reason to be in green. There's a good chance that, if we open something else, we might want to consider ditching it. Though this opening pack, we bricked on the rare with Leyline of the Void.
We kind of just
bricked. The only red or green playables are Shock and Sedge Scorpion, of which I would rather have Shock. And honestly, the only other good cards in the pack are a Vampire of the Dire Moon and the Renewing or Angel or whatever it's called.
Dawning
Angel,
yeah.
the 3/2 that gains 4. So I'm just taking Shock here and then really considering going into a non-green color if something really exciting presents itself. I wouldn't do it for nothing because Vivian is that good, but if you ended up seeing something like a Cavalier in another color, I could consider switching.
Yeah. Next pack. So this is pack 2, pick 2. Again, we've only got red and green cards in our pile. Our rare is Tail's End. That's the 1 in a blue counter target activated ability, triggered ability, or legendary spell. So no. Another Loyal Pegasus. At uncommon, there is a Howling Giant. 5 green, 5/5 with reach. It makes 2/2/2s. I do too. And there's another Gift of Paradise, a Mammoth Spider, and a Sedge Scorpion.
I would just take
as well as a Destructive Digger, but I like the
Giant.
Giant.
I'd just take the Giant. The Giant's a great 7-drop. It goes well with this Gift of Paradise, and can make it so we don't need to play this Dragon Mage. Ooh, there's a third pick Dungeon Dice, but even more exciting.
Yeah, the
Creeping Trailblazer, red green for a 2/2. All your other elementals have +1/+0, and then you can pay 4 to give it +1/+1 for each elemental you control.
We got the gold uncommon for our color pair, and Dungeon Geist is excellent, but yeah, this is what we want to see. So we're going to take the Creeping Trailblazer here. All right, now we have a choice. Ooh, we actually have some good cards here for us, all in green. There's Pulse of Marasa. That's the 2 in a green instant and uncommon. Return a creature or land from a graveyard to its owner's hand. You gain 6 life.
I like.
And then there's Netcaster Spider and Silverback.
I like Pulse when you have cards like Howling Giant. Because when some of your best cards are creatures, it's very good. It's unfortunate it can't get back Chandra or Vivian. I might be tempted just to take the Silverback Shaman here. Though I wouldn't.
I like Silverback a lot. The Spiders also would go fine in this deck.
The Spider is fine in the deck, but I think with double Shock, you're kind of protected against the small flyers reasonably well. And you have Chandra Spitfire, which is kind of close. So I'd probably just Silverback.
I do actually. I like Silverback as well. I think it's the most rawly powerful card, even though Pulse is close.
Leafkin Druid is something I would put a high premium on if I was able to get one.
Yes.
Kind of bricked this pack.
Yeah, so our best card, again, we're still heavy in green-red, is Brightwood Tracker or a Keldon Raider. Oof, these are not what we want. They're not on curve for what we want. There's a Yarax Wave Crasher, 3 in a blue 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, return another.
This might be a little aggressive, but I think I would just take the Noxious Grasp. This is the 1 in a black instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker that's green or white. You gain a life. We've got a Gift of Paradise. We might pick up a land. It's a splashable sideboard card that can be really powerful in the right matchup. And I just can't see a world where we play 2 Brightwood Trackers or just even the first Keldon Raider.
We are not playing any of these cards. Therefore, we should default to a card that we have at least some option to play for the upside. Yeah. So let's take Noxious Grasp. I love that pick. All right, next pack. It's getting a little rough here. Season of Growth. 1 in a green. Whenever creatures enter enchantment, whenever creatures enter the battlefield under your control, you scry 1. Whenever you cast a spell that targets a creature you control, draw a card. I have not been impressed by that one. There's a blood-soaked altar, the 4 black artifact, tap, pay 2 life, discard a card, sacrifice a creature to make a 5/5 demon. You can only do it at sorcery speed. A bone splinters, and another ferocious pup.
Honestly, I might just take the bone splinters here. Yeah. Look, I'm not looking to splash black, but if you end up short on removal and have the incentive to splash black already with the Noxious Grasp out of the board, with double ferocious pup, bone splinters isn't the worst card in the world.
I'll take it.
I mean,
there's just nothing for us here, right?
I don't anticipate playing these cards, but
yeah, I'll tell you what. Pack 3 better be real nice to us because Pack 2 has been a beating. This is a 7th pick now, and our only 2 on-color cards are Brightwood Tracker and Wolfkin Bond, and then there's a Retributive Wand as well.
It's so weird because I didn't expect green to be like I didn't expect red or green to be cut off so bad because we didn't pass any red or green cards in the first pack.
Seriously, we were cutting all of it. We got some stubborn bots.
I guess I would take the wand.
Yeah, I'm just taking the wand for the sideboard, yeah, even though I don't have it.
Whoa! 8th pick Risen Reef. All right,
what just happened?
Slamming the Risen Reef and trying to figure out how to play blue so we can get these black cards out of here, I think.
Yeah, wow. Okay, that is super interesting. We do already have the one fixer, the Gift of Paradise, but we'll keep our eye out for more. Now we've got Octoprophet, Befuddle, and Anvil Rot Raptor as our choices. I guess we just take the
Raptor probably.
Yeah, probably won't make the cut.
Ooh, Mammoth Spider.
Mammoth Spider came back.
All right. I like that.
So we'll take that. Another Diamond Knight, Bone to Ash, Blade Brand, and Sanitarium Skeleton. I guess I'll just take Diamond Knight number 2. Another Diamond Knight.
Diamond Knight number 3. We're finally doing it.
Yeah, and then some nonsense at the end of the pack here. There's an Act of Treason to kind of wind things down for us. Okay, so just to recap, we are now currently at 22 cards, although this hasn't really been gone through. It still has a Diamond Knight.
Honestly, we're at like 16 cards I'd like to play.
Yeah, let's just do that. Let's
take out all the Diamond Knights. Let's take out the Uncaged Fury. Let's take out the Anvil Rot Raptor.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take out the Dagger Sail Aeronaut.
Yep.
I just don't think that's where I want to be. Take out the Dragon Mage. So we're at 15 cards, which isn't where you want to be going into pack 3. But on the other hand, we do have some playables in the sideboard if we actually need to.
And to recap for our listeners, we've got 2 Shock, an Ember Cat, a Creeping Trailblazer, Chandra Spitfire, 2 Ferocious Pup, the Risen Reef we just picked up, 1 Gift of Paradise, Vivian Chandra, Brightwood Tracker, Mammoth Spider, and Silverback at 5, and then the Howling Giant at the top end at 7. All right, so let's see.
I think this deck is good going into pack 3.
Yeah,
it's a little short on playables, but it has a lot of the cards you're looking for, and we bricked.
And we bricked so hard. Oh my goodness. Our pack 3 pick one is Embodiment of Agonies, 1 black, Flying Death Touch. It gets +1/+1 counter on it when the ETBs for each different mana cost in your graveyard. In fact, the first 2 uncommons are also black, Thought Distortion, which is unplayable, and Yarok's Fenlurker, which is double black. And then there's a Pattern Matcher to round out our uncommons. At common for us, our choices are Feral Invocation, Ripscale Predator, or Goblin Bird Grabber. Those are the only 3 on-color commons, or in fact, on-color cards in the entire pack.
I think I'm just going to take, I would just recommend taking Pattern Matcher here. We can get a second Ferocious Pup, and this pack, it's not that unreasonable to pick up a duplicate or 2. So,
and it has at least some playable upside to it.
Yeah, all right. Not where I want to be. Oh,
this next pack's better, though. There's an Overcome, which you and I actually talked about off air, but we'll cover that here. And then there's also a Thrashing Brontodon and a Reduced to Ashes, as well as a Sedge Scorpion. So first things first, where are you at on Overcome currently?
I have not liked Overcome that much because it's a blank in the early game. It's bad against heavy removal decks. And while it does win board stalls or can be really good if you have Scampering Scorchers or enough Ferocious Pups, I've seen it, I feel, lose more games than win games. It's not very often that I see a game where you're like, oh, Overcome totally won this game versus you drew Overcome and it just did nothing. I don't like where it's at. I think it's just lacking a little bit of oomph. And I would take both Reduce or Brontodon over Overcome here, and I think I would just take the Brontodon.
Yeah, I want to take the Thrashy Bee here. This card I think is the most powerful option, full stop. So let's take that. Actually, Brontodon goes in the pack. And what do we get next? A Goblin Ringleader. No. A Keldon Raider, a Ripscale Predator, and another Ferocious Pup. Wow.
Not
just
great,
another brick of a pack. We could take this Boreal Elemental.
Yeah, I would just take Boreal Elemental. I think we're going to want to splash the Risen Reef. We're going to put a high priority on picking up any sort of fixing if we can find it in this pack. And Boreal Elemental is just a very strong card. Ooh, this pack mostly bricks, but it does have a Chandra's Spitfire as the most exciting red or green card. You know, it's ahead of Infuriate and the 17th Brightwood Tracker we've seen.
Right, we'll wheel that one anyway.
I like the Spitfire. 3-mana, 1/3 flying elemental is just not bad in an elemental deck, and you've got a couple ways to make it pop.
We already have 2 shocks, right?
Yeah, you also have Chandra Novice Pyromancer can nug the opponent and get it going.
And by the way, her next pack has another Chandra Spitfire in it.
Yeah, I think I would just take it. And then
I think I'm going to take it too. Yeah, there's also a Frost Lynx and a Fry.
I like Fry, but we're just short on we're short on playables. Plus, this makes the pattern matcher quite a bit better.
All right. The mediocre packs continue, though. We've got Reckless Airstrike. That's the red sorcery. At common, choose one. Reckless Airstrike deals 3 damage to target creature with flying or destroy target artifact, and a Ripscale Predator. There's also a Prismite and a Heart Piercer bow. Does our Heart Piercer bow trigger the Spitfires? It does, right?
No, because it can't hit the opponent.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, I don't think I care about any of these cards particularly. Maybe we need a 2-drop. Let's take a quick look here. Yeah, we've only got 2 2-drops. I think we should actually just take Prismite, as embarrassing as that is.
Yeah, it's also a fixer. I mean, it's not a good fixer for Boreal Elemental, but it's actually a fine fixer for Risen Reef because Risen Reef only costs 3.
Mm-hmm. We've got a Plummet next, and there's also Reckless Airstrike, but I'm just going to take Plummet. We might even main deck it, although we don't really need it.
Whoa, Scampering Scorcher. There we go.
Hello, friend.
That is a good late pickup. That works really well with Risen Reef, works well with Chandra Novice Pyromancer. It's just not a bad card by itself, good with Creeping Trailblazer. We have enough synergies to make it pretty good. The funny thing is this is actually turning into a deck that would play an Overcome, I think, with now that it's got the Scampering Scorcher and 2 pups. But I still don't feel bad about passing it.
Yeah, I don't either. Maybe we'll get it back. I think we should take Goblin Bird Grabber here. The only other option is Ripscale Predator. So we don't want that. Take that. Oh, we wheeled the Reduce to Ashes.
Yep, that's a good wheel because this deck was missing removal, and that gives it some much needed interaction here. And we've got plenty of cards we can cut.
Indeed, that puts us to 25 cards currently in our pile. Although we still have the Prismite and the Pattern Matcher.
Shame we're not going to get any more fixing here. Oh, I think Pattern Matcher is actively good with just two different creatures that can get multiples here.
What do we have? Oh, because we have the triples Chandra Spitfire.
And the pup. Cool. Yeah.
So now we can take Goblin Ringleader with. I think we have 2 goblins. Yeah, we have the Bird Grabber, and then we have the 3/2.
Yeah, I don't think we want to play either of those though.
Agreed. So that leaves us with Keldon Raider, Ripscale Predator, or a Heart Piercer bow.
I might take Heart Piercer because at least it has good sideboard applications.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the 1 toughness creatures are not going to be long for this world against us. And then last back is another Goblin Ringleader, and then a Stone Golem to sort of round things out.
Ooh,
a Reckless
I like the
Airstrike.
Airstrike. Okay. One thing we did not touch on earlier when talking about blue-white flyers, the fact that Plummet and Airstrike are both commons does actually make the Flyers deck a little worse. Like, look, we just picked up on last pick Reckless Airstrike. Mm-hmm. If we play against blue-white, we're going to side in 2 Reckless Airstrikes and a Plummet and just have like a bunch of premium removal against their deck kind of for free.
Yeah, that's actually all we really want in this world is to play against blue-white every time. All right, so this puts us to, let's see, with 17 lands, we've got, so right now I made some cuts. We've got 2 Shock, Chandra's Embercat, Goblin Bird Grabber, Creeping Trailblazer, Prismite, and then at 3 drops, we've got 3 copies of Chandra's Spitfire and 2 Ferocious Pup, plus Thrashing Brontodon, Risen Reef, and Gift of Paradise. At 4 drops, we've got Scampering Scorcher, Brightwood Tracker, Pattern Matcher, Chandra, and Vivian. 5s, we've got Boreal Elemental, Mammoth Spider, Silverback Shaman, Reduced to Ashes, and then we've got Howling Giant at 7. So we need to make one cut from here.
I would certainly cut the Goblin Bird Grabber.
Yeah, that thing seems pretty out of place here.
And then I'm debating with you if this deck wants 18 lands, just because
There's a decent chance.
The mana is a little rough, because you certainly want an 8th forest, like regardless of what happens.
Yes, sure.
I think we could probably cut an island, because 2 islands plus a Prismite plus a Gift of Paradise is enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
And we could run 17 land 8/7/2, or you can go 9/7/2 and run 18 lands. I would say 9/7/2 is probably my preference, and then because we have triple green at Viv, we've got Gift of Paradise that can help fix red. Also, with double shock, Prismite's a pretty good red fixer. If you draw all forests and islands and Prismite and shocks, you're not really that encumbered. Whereas Prismite's not a great way to cast, Thrashing Brontodon or Silverback or Mammoth Spider.
Right, which we do have. We have Howling Giant, Silverback, triple on Vivian, and then the Brontodon, all double green cards. So that is rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like 9 minimum for Forest, so I think you're right. I would like to play 18 lands in this deck, though. I think that the curve is pretty thick, right? Like it's, we've got 5 4-drops.
I might actually
4 or 5 drops in a 7-ball.
I might actually just cut the Brightwood Tracker.
Even with the 18 lands.
Yeah, the 18 lands makes me want the Brightwood Tracker.
Same.
You could cut one of the Spitfires, maybe?
Yeah, we could cut a Spitfire.
You could just give up on the Pattern Matcher pup action and cut one of the Ferocious Pups and just play one pup and still play the Pattern Matcher as a 3/3 that occasionally draws a Spitfire.
Yeah, that seems fine. The pup is we did not get an
overcome. We just don't really have
anyway.
that much that works with it. So
yeah, pup is just kind of a 2/2 for 3 with like a little bit of upside.
Yeah.
Okay, there's our deck.
Yeah, I would say this deck's like a 7 out of 10. It's got a Vivian and a Chandra as the high-end stuff. It's got a Splashed Reef, which isn't the best case, but the Reef is busted in this deck. We have 5, 6, 7 elementals plus the Reef, and the Scampering Scorcher makes 3 elementals by itself. So
yeah, totally.
That's a pretty big game. Yeah, also has double shock, reduced to ashes, like Chandra. It's got, in Vivian, it's got a decent amount of removal. Like, even with just the one Mammoth Spider, this deck's not losing to small flyers. I guess its weakest point is probably against, a deck that has, murders and big creatures like black-green or something.
Yeah, that seems to be the hardest, because this deck doesn't look consistent enough to be one of those curve out, always applying pressure style decks. It kind of is truly a mid-range deck.
Yeah.
It looks fine, though. Yeah. All right. So hopefully you learned something from that, listening along with us. Again, I'm going to do my best to play around with the video, and I'll be kind of tweaking this as we go along as well to see what the best system is to get it. But if I can get it right, it'll be in the video on YouTube, and I'll mention it next week as well to see how that went. Because I'm a little. It might be weird, but anyway, I'm going to try it. Yeah, and then I want to remind you, by the way, to tune in. Coming up next week, we're going to be doing the show from Barcelona, and
we probably will be.
Yeah, we're going to do the show. When do you get in?
I have to submit my deck list before I get on my flight, because I leave that late. I get in Thursday morning.
Thursday morning? Oh my goodness, you're crazy. Well, we won't want to do the show Thursday then. You'll be out of it.
We will figure it out. I have no doubt.
Okay. All right. Here, let me stop recording this part. Not the show, by the way. We're not leaving. Don't worry. Okay.
All right. Now that we're off air, you know what what?
So hopefully, again, this is helpful. Again, we're going to continue to refine our draft walkthroughs, but after getting a bunch of advice from people before, it was pretty clear to us that these had some merit to them and some value. And we're going to continue to do them, but I want to keep working on tweaking them to get them to the right place where they're the most useful. With it in mind, considering that this is not a draft video, this is meant to be audio where you can listen to it and follow along while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, whether you're drafting Modern Horizons on Magic Online or whatever. Yeah,
as an example. Thank you for that. Topical example. All right, let's wrap up the show there, though. And again, any feedback you have, you know where to find us. Twitter, you can find us on basically any social media or through the Patreon or the email for the show. you know, we're always welcome we always welcome any feedback or anything like that. I want to remind you that the show is brought to you by Channel Fireball. Make sure that if you do order anything Monday through Thursday this coming week, the dates that Luis listed earlier, you got to use that promo code scoreboard and then follow along to see how Luis does at the Mythic Championship, because the better he does, the better you do. This is, I was talking to Luis about it before the show, and we were talking about like at basketball games when if somebody misses 2 free throws or whatever, the crowd gets a taco or something.
Like when the Warriors score over 100 points or whatever, and everyone gets free tacos. like,
yeah, it's like you get to root for your team.
I do consider myself the Draymond Green of Magic, so.
Oh God, you thankfully have very little in common with Draymond Green. Otherwise, I think I'd be a lot more frustrated a lot more often.
J.R. Smith.
Anyway, so use that code. No, that's saved for somebody else. But yeah. Scoreboard is the promo code, and then of course you can find it anything.
I'm going to do my best. I've been practicing quite a bit, so I feel good about this event.
Wait a minute, but don't you lose? Like, you're like a big part of Channel Fireball. Isn't it bad for you if you?
No. I want. Like,
are you going to bomb out on purpose?
No.
Okay, you're not going to bomb out on purpose.
I'm not. Trust me, the best case scenario for everyone involved, both me, the people who buy cards, and Channel Fireballs, giving everyone a ton of store credit back. I think we'd all be happy with that.
Okay, well, that's awesome, and make sure you take advantage of that. I mentioned social media, Marshall_LR for me, LSV for Luis, and you can find everything related to the podcast at lrcast.com. That's going to do it for this one. We'll see you next week from Barcelona.
Is there something supposed to go here or what?
Yeah, say something.
What am I supposed to say?
You're supposed to say a sign-off. Another one every week? Yes, you have to do a sign-off every week. Well, you don't. I mean, I guess we could talk about it. Well, the show kind of finished abruptly. And sometimes I have sign-offs prepared beforehand, and I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. And sometimes I guess I do not. So we actually caught you flat-footed with no sign-off. I think it was because during the draft I had to go get the door. It just kind of like, Oh, wow. I had a long conversation with the listeners while you were gone. Oh, did you? Was it good? Oh, it was great. Yeah, we talked about lots of stuff. Shock. Some other stuff. Okay, well then say goodbye to them at least. Don't be rude. Yeah, but I hate to leave without like a at least something. It just feels so empty. How about you give them something good to try to cook to eat? Okay, this will be the makeup here. I am actually having a barbecue for GP Denver this week, and I think one of the go-tos that I enjoy making quite a bit now that I've gotten a chance to do it is these like foil shrimp packets. I think I talked about this last time a little bit. No, you didn't. Oh. You did not talk about foil shrimp packets. I'm into this. So it's super easy. Explain. So look, I'm a very functional cook, or pragmatic cook. Like I've cooked a lot, and I think I can do, make my way through most recipes, but I put a pretty high premium on stuff that's like easy to replicate for larger groups, and stuff that I'm going to talk about on the podcast that is going to tend to be the stuff that's less complicated, right? Like, this shrimp stuff, it kind of hits the high marks of looks fancy, tastes good, and is easy to do. All you do is you take like a square, like a 12 by 12 square of aluminum foil, and you put uncooked shrimp. Just like I like getting the shrimp peeled, with just the tails on. That's it. But do as you will. Shrimp, like a corn cob, like a half a corn cob, some like diced potatoes, some sausage, like andouille sausage, and then some like chopped garlic, butter, and Old Bay seasoning, and wrap it up. And you can do this ahead of time. I prepared these the night before last time, though it doesn't have to be the night before. And then you just throw it on the grill or in the oven for like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. And it just comes out awesome. Like it's just these like steamed shrimp packages. One thing I would have changed from the last time I did it is I would have actually parboiled the potatoes, like cut up the potatoes and then boiled them for just like a little bit, just because they cook a little faster that way, because otherwise they don't cook quite as fast. They cook a little slower than everything else. But okay, so then the other stuff has to kind of catch up, and it can be overcooked. But no, in general, like this is just
again, super easy. Probably took 15 minutes to prepare like 4 of these packages. And then that's food for like 6 people or whatever.
Ugh, you made me I was like pretty happy, not hungry, and now I'm starving thanks to you. So that was so brutal. I should not have asked for any of that. I was not prepared.
This is your fault. You brought this upon yourself.
Totally. I totally did this to myself, and I'm really unhappy I did this. But I'm glad that the listeners got
All right. Yeah, I won't be so unprepared next time.